So, hello everyone. So, I know you are guys are waiting long, but we need to wait for a few more minutes, just a couple of minutes, and we will be starting soon. So, yeah, hope I'm audible. If yes, please reply on chat box. Yeah, great, great, great. So, hello everyone, and good evening all. I'm Kushal Sabit Chaudhary. I am the event head of GeeksforGeeks SNU Chapter, and I welcome you all to the second pre-hackathon event of Hack4Bengal, organized by GeeksforGeeks SNU Chapter. Now, Hack4Bengal is a hackathon. Um, so, hope my screen is visible to you guys. So Hack for Bengal is a hackathon organized by Skepsis, the technical committee of Sister Nivedita University. It is a 48-hour hackathon, and it is scheduled to be take place on from 8th to 10th April. Now, let me share you guys the link to our website. So you can check on Google. It's hack4bengal.tech. I'm also sharing the link in the chat box. So yeah, so when you will open our web page, you will find there's an option to there's a apply button, apply with portfolio button. If you are not getting, you can actually try refreshing it. You will get it. You will find it. So this is our timeline. So the registration has already started from January 1st, and it will continue till April 1st. The pre-hackathon events are going on, and plus all the events organized by our sponsors and all will be scheduled from 1st April to 8 April, pre-hackathon session. Hackathon running means the hackathon is scheduled to be take place from April 8 to 10th April. The winners will be announced on 18th of April, and the closing ceremony will take place on 22nd April, and it's continues. Now coming on. So these are our themes of hackathon. You can choose any theme you want, and you need to build your project related to any one of the theme. These are healthcares, educations, fintech. Fintech is basically crypto or any financial tech. Uh, the next is sustainability. After sustainability community commit. Yeah, help. Sure, sure. Yeah, so I was talking about the themes. So the next theme is community. So anything community is basically means you don't want to solve any problem nowadays people are facing in lifestyle. So any life problem you are solving and with your project. So then that comes in the community section, and then there is open innovation. Means you can build anything you want to do, you want to make, and yeah, that comes under open innovation. So now these are some of our sponsors. starting with yeah, these are some of our sponsors, and it is still growing, guys. It is just the registration has started as well. And it is still growing. These are some you can see on our website. Um, so this is our team. These are our lead organizers. Starting with Manish Kumar Bandwal, Sagnik Mitra, and Soham Trivedi. So, and this is our whole team, starting with leads. Yeah, that's me, Kushal Zavi Chaudhary, event lead. We have Khalil Jaiswal as our PR lead. We have Pawan Kumar as our content lead. And we have Sean Maidhan as our marketing lead and Rahul Mondal as our graphics lead. And these are our core teams. Yeah. So last but not the least, uh, these are our community partners, and Rishabh Creation.
Kushal,
I'm giving you.
sorry for interrupting.
Yes,
Just do one thing, make me, Manish and Shanmoy the co-host.
okay, sure. Yeah, I guess.
You can focus on the presentation now, we'll accept the participants.
Sure. So these are our, as I was telling, these are our community partners, and yeah, it's still growing, guys. You can reach out to us if you want to become our community partners, and also if you want to be a sponsor. So now, yeah, just giving you an insight. So yeah, as I was telling about, so let me.
Kushal, make it full screen.
Yeah, wait. So yeah, so as I was telling that this it has been organized by our Skepsis, and it's a technical committee of Sister Nivedita University. It has almost 10 plus core members and more than 1,500 participants. So this hackathon began with the idea of actually bringing together all the best of the best in the field of technology and provide them a platform for the students to showcase their talent, their skills, and all and work. So these are our recent collaborations, as also, it is also mentioned in our website. So we are expecting around the expected number, or we are expecting around 2,000 plus participants. But these are the more than 85 events have been already undertook by the various clubs which are under the sketches. And so yeah, this is the actually the timeline. So as I already told you guys about the timeline, that the this actually started, the planning already started from October to December, but actually the announcement came out in January 1st, and from that the registration has started. Then in the our pre-hackathon events,
Kushalda, hello, Kushalda. Can I please take over from here from like for just 5 to 10 minutes? Can I take over from now? Yeah, yeah. You just present the screen. I'm just talking to everyone. Yeah, guys. I would just request every one of you present over here. Please, like keep the chat box clean. Okay, don't spam anything like any words or anything which is like which will be not like good for us to see in the chat box. Okay, please. I request you everyone. Okay. So can I go to the first page, Kushalda? Yeah, sure. So, so first of all, let me present to you. This is Hack4Bengal, which is, and please unmute. Don't unmute yourself, please. So I would request everyone to pay attention now. So this is Hack4Bengal, and this is a hackathon which is organized by Skepsis, the technical committee of Sister Niveda University. And today's event is web development, a complete roadmap by Niloy Sikdar. Our speaker is a bit late because he had an emergency and he had to go. So please bear with us and give us a bit time and stay with us till the time the speaker joins. Okay. So let me tell you what is Hack4Bengal. Hack4Bengal is a 48-hour hackathon which is organized by Skepsis, the technical committee of Sister Niveda University. And about Skepsis, if I say you, Skepsis is the technical committee of Sister Niveda University, and you know it is which is headed by our very known Shubham Trivedi, and the vice president is Shagnikda. It covers all the chapters which are present in our university. That is includes CodeChef, Google Developer Student Club, GeeksforGeeks Chapter, and every all other chapters which comes under the Skepsis. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so you can go to the next slide once again. Yeah. So yeah, we have got collaborations from many other chapters, like GeeksforGeeks SNU Chapter is collaborating this event, and this complete event of web development is conducted by GeeksforGeeks SNU Chapter, and the other collaborating partners are MRAC CodeChef Chapter, Coding Blocks SNU Chapter, Codecademy Bharat Chapter, CodeChef SNU Chapter, and Google Developer Student Clubs of Systemware University, IIST, and Chandigarh University. And we have other eminent clubs like MLSA, Postman, GitHub, MITR, student clubs of GFG, and many others. So these community partners will be helping Hack4Bengal to reach new heights and to give you all guys a good platform for showing your talents, your skills, and everything. These chapters will uh, host events and many things. In the upcoming sessions, you will get to know. Okay, we can go to the next page. Yeah. So Hack4Bengal, the timeline. Yeah, we can go to the timeline. Yeah. So our planning began from October to December, when we just planned that I, Shagnigda, Manish, Shubhamda, and we were all sitting, and we decided that let's organize a hackathon, because in East India we don't know like many such hackathons which are organized by student communities. Like we know Hack Odisha, which is organized by NIT Rourkela, and there are many other hackathons which are organized by many university chapters, and they are very eminent ones, because we know some great hackathons like SRM hackathons, which is organized by SRM Chennai University, and many more. So we announced our hackathon on 20th December, that we will be organizing a hackathon, and from 1st of January everything began. So our pre-hackathon session has already begun, and the hackathon will start from 8th. The hackathon, when you will be making your projects and everything, will begin from 8th of April to 10th of April. It's a 48-hour hackathon, and we'll have our post hackathon, all the sessions, and like the winner announcing ceremony and all of those in the from 20th of April. Okay, so let's go to the next timeline. So yeah, so many of you might have a question that, like, what are the pre-hackathon events and what is the pre-hackathon session? What is this? So in the pre-hackathon session, we get to know all the things we will like implement in the hackathon. Like if you are making a website if you're making your own website for the hackathon, you need to know the basics and everything from the basics, right? You need to know that. And like today we are organizing web development, you will get the complete roadmap, and in this 2 months journey you will get to know and study, and like all the things you will need to know for making the website, you will learn from now on. Okay, since like assume that any one of you is interested in app development or is making any app, you will just you will just get to know all the roadmap and everything from the basics, and then you can implement all those things in the hackathon running, which will start from 8th of April to 10th of April. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So I have already discussed about this. And who can participate? The students.
Sanmay.
Yeah, I know the speaker is
Sanmay.
here. I know the speaker is here. I'll just hand over to him. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So like who can participate? The students and the hackers can participate in this hackathon. And now I will not exaggerate anymore, and I will tell Niloy to take over from here. I guess Niloy is here. Hello, Niloy. Hello.
Yeah, Niloy, thank you, Shanmay, for explaining beautifully about our app for Bengal. And now I would just give a
हेलो, बोलिए। हम्म। आप होस्ट नहीं है इसलिए। रुकिए रुकिए। हेलो निलॉय, आर यू ऑडिबल? इवेंट का तो मेरा स्ट्रीम का मतलब अराउंड 10-15 पीपल चला गया, ठीक है। लाइक तो आई अभी मतलब थोड़ा चेहरा खड़ा होगा, थोड़ा जोर से बोलना पर मतलब हाथ में मतलब ठंडा हो गया, मतलब क्या नहीं बोले मतलब। सुनो नेक्स्ट इवेंट से गूगल ठीक है टीम एक्सेस हटाना है ठीक है टीम करना है साला तो आगे गया मतलब कुछ भी बके जाके चैट बॉक्स में मैं समझ नहीं करता मतलब बोल फर्स्ट टाइम ठीक है मेरे को बोलना था अगर तो
looking websites. Those websites have some hover effects, some animations. So to get those animations and other styling like color and some other styling, you'll need something called CSS. Now CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So you have to use CSS or some other things like SCSS to make your website or web app more attractive to the users. Now let us move forward, and the next thing which you need to learn is JavaScript. So now JavaScript is a programming language. HTML and CSS these are not programming language actually. You may know, you may have heard about C++, Python. Maybe you also know C++, Python. So these are programming languages. JavaScript is also one programming language, but HTML, CSS are not like programming language. HTML is markup language, not programming language. So yeah, you have to learn JavaScript to interact with the web components. That means if you want to get some kind of complex animation, or if you want to do some kind of logical thing, that means we are also going to check how you can use JavaScript into your website. So for that thing, you need to learn about JavaScript. And now, so JavaScript is also like dynamically typed language. So yeah, now let us do some hands-on demo. That means we are going to open our favorite code editor, and we are going to write some code. We are going to write some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, and let us see how you can actually use those things to build your very first website. So let me share my screen and let me share my VS Code. I am going to use VS Code. You can use CodePen if you don't have any IDE installed in your system, but you can also use VS Code or Sublime Text or any other text editor. Great. I think my screen is visible. Let me quickly just open my command prompt, and I'm navigating through one of my folders, and I'm going to create one project, and which is I'm going to name it as what I can say, jokes site. That means we are going to use some kind of jokes API, and we are going to learn about API and how we can do API calls. We are going to learn. You don't need to worry about if you ever heard about API or not. You don't need to worry anything. We are going to discuss everything from the very basic thing. So yeah, you can like follow along. You can just open your favorite code editor and you can easily follow with me. So I am going to create one project called jokes app. Let me call it jokes app, and I'm going to my jokes app, and I am going to open it in my VS Code. Right. So I hope my screen is visible. My VS Code is visible, and I am going to create one file called index.html. Sorry. So what happened? Okay. Index.html. Let me zoom it a little bit so that it will be visible to all of you. Yeah, I hope it is visible now. So actually, I have created one file called index.html in my project's root directory. So as I have already told all of you that you need to write HTML for your web page or web app. So in HTML is the like main thing which you need to build your web page. So I am also going to use another extension, and the extension is called live server. If you just type live server, maybe I am currently having some issues with the marketplace, but don't worry, you can just search for live server in the extensions tab. Here it is the extensions tab, and if you search for live server, you will find one extension called live server. So you can install that, and you can just get this button, and you can also right click your index.html file, and you will get one option called open with live server. So great. I am also using one thing called emmet. So emmet will help us to autocomplete things. That means we humans are actually lazy, right? We don't need to write a lot of code. So that's why we have some kind of extension called we have something called emmet, which is actually built-in thing in VS Code, and you can use that to write actually less code, and you can easily scale up your project. So to start your index.html file, if you are using VS Code, you can just type exclamation mark, and you can see that we are having one emit abbreviation. So if you just hit enter, you can see some kind of boilerplate. So yeah, let me just minimize it, and now you can see we have one boilerplate automatically generated by emit. So let us go through our boilerplate. So what is the meaning of the whole thing? So the first thing which we need to include in our HTML file is the doc type. That means browser. We need to tell our browser that yeah, this is the type of HTML. This file is type of HTML, and the browsers will understand that yeah, this is HTML file, and I need to render this HTML file in the browser. The second thing is HTML language. You can mention the HTML language, and it is like English. Then we need something called head tag, and inside your head tag there are some other tags like meta tag, and in meta tag we have some other things like a different attribute. One attribute is called cassette, like the encoding style UTF-8, and some other things like name, viewport, and content with devices. It will help us to make our website responsive, but you don't need to worry about that. You can simply ignore these things, and you can learn more about from different websites or different YouTube videos. The main thing is title. So this title actually refers to the title of our web page. So let me quickly let me show you how you can change your title of the web page. And from the next to the head tag, we have another tag called body tag, and these are tags. That means we have two types of tag. One is like auto closing tag. Some tags does not need another closing tag and opening tag, and some tags some tags actually needs to have one opening tag and one closing tag. If you look into the head tag, you can find that here the head tag is opening, and here we have another head tag, but it is kind of different, right? The first head tag does not actually have this thing, that slash thing, but our next head tag has this slash thing. That means it actually indicates that it is the opening of head tag and it is the closing of head tag. You can also find the similarity here in the title tag also. The title tag, if here you actually don't have any kind of backslash or forward slash. So yeah, I mean, I actually forgot. So let us pick slash. So you don't have slash here, but here you have the slash. So it is the opening tag of title tag and it is the closing tag. And here you need to put some kind of content here. And next to the head tag, we have our body tag. Now it is actually the main part of our HTML file. That means all of our content, content, including different text, different images, we are going to include all of our content inside our body tag. So inside our body tag, let us first write something. Now to write some kind of text, we have some other different tags, like for the heading we have H tags, for the paragraph we have P tags, we have some other tags called span. You can definitely check out the W3 documentation or MDN docs, so you can learn more about them. But let me just use one H tag. That means that we are going to define some kind of heading, and H tag has like 6 types from H1 to H6. I'm going to use H2. So if I just type H2, emit is suggesting something to us. You can see that emit abbreviation is going to appear, and if you just hit enter, you can see emit is actually auto completing the whole thing for us. Here is the opening tag for H2, and here is the closing tag for H2. And inside our opening and closing tag, we need to put some content. So I'm going to put hello world. I mean, this is the basic thing which you write while learning coding and other stuff. So I am writing hello world, and I'm going to press save by pressing Ctrl S. And if I now click go live, this button, I have this go live button just in the bottom right corner. You can also just click this index.html file, right click the index.html file, and you can find open with live server. So you can press this button and you can see that we have already started our live server in port 5500. Now one browser window will actually pop up. So let me just take it to this screen so that you can also see the screen. Great. So now you can see that we have one blank web page which has the title called document. You can see this is the title called document. So why it is having the title called document? Because we have mentioned the title here is document. So let me just let me take it here, and let me take it here so that you can see the changes in real time. And let me make it some small, and I'm going to make it large. Now we can you can see the changes in real time because live server will automatically reload the browser for us. So now if I just change this from document to my web page and I need to save using Control S, you can see now the title of our website is my web page. So you can define the title of your website or your web app using this title tag. Now we have mentioned the hello world here, and let us write some paragraph here. So I'm going to use p tag, and if I hit enter again, emmet will automatically complete for us. And for those for those who don't have emmet installed by default in your VS Code, I think you can install it from extensions tab. Otherwise, if you have to write it like fully, you have to open the p tag, you have to close the p tag, and inside it you can write some paragraph. That means I am going to write my name is Niloy, right? Let me just save the file, and you can see in our browser we got one paragraph which is like my name is Niloy. It is not looking nice, right? So we need to add some styling. For that, we have to make another file called CSS file. Now you can follow some directory structure like folder structure for some complex application, but for the starting phase you can directly create all your files in your root directory. So I'm going to name it as style.css. Okay, I was going to write the external CSS. So we have three types of CSS. One is called inline CSS, one is called internal CSS, and one is the thing which I was going to do is called external CSS. For inline CSS, we can add the style directly into our tags. That means as a style attribute, we can mention the style. You can see VS Code is automatically like suggesting some styling for us, and we have the height, width, display padding, everything. So let me just use color. So I'm going to change the color of my hello world text to red. And if I hit save, you can see now our hello world is having the red color. So I have applied some styling, but it is now inline CSS. Now I'm going to remove it, and if I just press Ctrl S, you can see hello world is having black again. And now what we can do inside our head tag, we can use the style tag. We can use the style tag, and here we can write CSS also. So this is called internal CSS. So first we need to grab the element which we need to style, right? We need to style the hello world. So hello world is actually one H2 element. It is having the H2 tag. So we have to grab the H2 tag, and we have to open second bracket, and here we need to mention our styling. That means we are going to use the color red. And if I now press Ctrl S, you can see our styling is applied. So by this way, you can also use styling, but these two ways are not actually recommended. When you have like large project, you can't just write styling. You can't use inline styling and internal CSS. You have to make separate folder for your styling. For that, you need to create style.css. You can name it as anything like index.css or mystyle.css. I'm going to name it as style.css. And I have created the style.css folder. Now what I need to do, first I need to link the file. That means currently our HTML file does not know where from where we need to fetch our styling, right? Because it is not like mentioned anywhere that we are going to fetch the styling from style.css file. For that, we need to tell our HTML that, okay, we need to apply styling directly from our style.css file. For that, we have to use another tag called link tag. We just enter link. You can see image is auto-completing as usual, and you can see we have link, and relation is the attribute, and it is telling us that this attribute names the relationship of the linked document to the current document. That means when we are going to import the styling, we have to mention that what type of file we are going to import. That means the relation of the file to this index.html file. So we are going to import one style sheet, as I have already mentioned. CSS, that means cascading style sheet. So we are going to import the style sheet. For that, we need to add relation rel equal to style sheet. And here inside href, we need to pass the path. Now you can pass the relative path, or you can actually pass the actual path. So I'm going to use relative path because this is the recommended way. You can use dot slash. That means we are going to search in our current directory, and inside our current directory we have found that we have our file called style.css. So you have to enter style.css. Now that's it. Now if I press save, we have successfully linked our external CSS file to our index to our HTML file. That means if I write any CSS inside our style.css file, you are going to see those styling in our website directly. So let me first try that same styling. That means we are going to make our hello world red. For that, we have to first tell our style sheet that which element we need to target. So we are going to target the h2 element, our h2 tag, and we have to give it a color called red. Right? So we have to give it the color of red. And yeah, you can see now our color is actually our text is having the color red. Now, let us move ahead and let us try something new. One thing which I like, and I also recommend all of you, that you can see that we are having some kind of gap from both the top and from the left, right? But we have not applied any styling for that, because by default, these tags, that means the h2 tag, the p tag, and the body tag, will automatically apply some margin and padding. So I need to override that, and I have to tell that, okay, for each and every element, I don't need any margin and padding. So I am adding margin padding 0. And one more property, that box sizing border box. You can learn more about box sizing, what box sizing is actually, by just googling box sizing CSS property. And if I hit save, now I can see that our text is actually like in the very top left corner, and it does not have any kind of gap between the outline of our web page. So let us move ahead and do some other things. That means you have learned that what is HTML and what is CSS and how you can link your HTML CSS file, how you can apply the styling. Now let us move forward and let us explore something more about HTML, some more tags. That means the most used tag is div. Let me just comment out. Yeah, you can also use comment by just pressing control and the slash, which is like in the left side of shift, right shift. So if you just press it, you can see that we have commented out our HTML file. So this is like the similar thing which you use in C++ or Python. You can comment out any particular lines. If you just press Control S, you can see the hello world and my name is Niloy is now vanished from our web page. Now we are going to create another tag, another element which is known as div. Now if I press div, you can see that it is again one tag which needs the closing tag. That means we need to add both opening and closing tag for this particular tag. Fine. So what is actually div? You can think div as a container. So you can put anything inside your div and you can add some kind of styling. So let me just save it. And currently you can't see anything, right? But now if I target my div, currently our page is only having one div. So if I just select div directly, that means we are going to select this element, this div. Now you can ask me, okay, why I have added this div, but why can't I see anything? Because currently the height and width of the div is like having currently the height is having 0. By default, the width of the div is to the 100% of parent element. We are going to see that. Now, if I give some kind of height, we can add height. We have one CSS property called height, and I'm going to use 100px. Now, px stands for pixel. We have some units for the styling. You can use 100px, 100rem, 100em. If you just type 100, you can find that there are so many units for our CSS. So you can explore those things. I am going to use pixel, and I am going to also add with 100 pixel. That means we are going to create some kind of square container, but it is not again visible. We can't see anything. So how can we see that? We have to add some kind of color. But if we add color, it will add color to our text, but not to our div. For that, we need to add background color, or else you can directly use the background also. You can just mention red. You can see our div is now visible. So by default, it is aligned in the top left corner, and we have added 100 pixel height, 100 pixel width with background of red. So you can see one small div with 100 pixel height, 100 pixel width with a background color red. Now, if I just increase the height to 200, if I save it, you can see the height of our div is actually growing. Right? And if you can also like change the background color to something called green or yellow as your wish. So now suppose we have two divs, right? We have two divs. But now the issue is how you can actually, now you have two divs, but if we directly select div in this way, we are actually selecting both the divs, and the styling, that means height 200 pixel with 200 pixel, the background is going to be added to both the divs. But we don't want, we want different styling for the divs. So you can see that by default, all of the elements are aligned like vertically. So if you want to align your elements horizontally, you need to add some properties, CSS properties. So we are going to look that. So now how you can differentiate your first div with your second div? For that, we have to add some attribute. We can use class, and we can add some class called div1. And here we can add some class called div2. Right? Now, instead of selecting our div directly, we can select our div1. That means the div which is having the class div1, we can select that particular div only using dot followed by the class name. The name of the class was
Add
div1.
job.
Okay.
We can continue. That was a
Yeah,
disturbance.
I think we can continue. Yeah, fine. So now we can see that the 200 pixel height, 200 pixel width, and with the background yellow, it is only applied to the first div. We have only applied the styling to our first div. Now, if we want to apply different styling to our second div, we have to select our second div by using dot div2, right? The thing which I have mentioned to select any element using class, you need to add one dot at beginning followed by the class name. So we are going to use the height 200 pixel and the width 200 pixel, and let me add one different background. You can also use background color and use red. Now you can see that we have added different styling. We have selected our divs individually. So that means we have selected our div1 and we have selected our div2 and we have applied some kind of styling. Okay, so let me give you one like small trick. If you have like two elements which are having some kind of properties which they both have, like for here div1 has height and width of 200 pixel, div2 also has the height and width of 200 pixel. So what we can do, we can just directly mention div1 comma div2, and if I remove height and width from here, you can see that both our divs are having the height and width 200 pixel. So if I also remove the background red, you won't be able to okay, as I have mentioned div1 and div2, that means div2 is also going to apply these CSS things, like div2 will also have the background yellow, but in our next line I have mentioned the background color as red. That means it is going to be override with this particular property, the background color red. So you are going to see the background red. So this is like some kind of CSS trick. Right, we have learned about div, we have learned about some text, and we can also add images. And let me just add a simple image. We'll search for any image and you can see this image, very nice looking. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me open it in new tab, open image in new tab. There is not a link. Let me find one link. Open image in new tab. This is also not link. This is base 64. We can download that. But yeah, this is fine. Got our image, but how we can show our network images to our website? To do that, we have one tag called IMG. Now IMG accepts something called SRC. SRC is the attribute, and inside our SRC you need to mention the link of our image, and if I press save, you can see that this image is now inside our website. Great. We can also add some kind of alt text. That means if the link is broken or somehow the image is unable to load, we are going to show some kind of text to our user. That means if I remove this T from here and if I load, you can see nothing is here. But if I just add alt text as logo, now you can see a broken image link. I don't know if it is visible. Let me zoom it. Yeah, you can now see that the broken image thing and followed by the alt text called logo. Okay, so you can add your images, and if you want to just add styling to your image, so let me just, you can style your image in the same technique, like you can directly select your image, or you can just specify some kind of class, or else you can also use ID. So IDs need to be unique something. So if I just use ID and ID, I am going to use image. You can also use ID, but to select any ID, any particular ID, you need to use hash. So you have to use hash image, and we are going to add some styling. Like currently the image is too big, right? So we can just mention the height of the image should be what 400 pixels, right? If I do it, you can see now our image is like having the 400 pixel height, right? So you can also add some other properties, like you can also add width of 400 pixel to make it like square, and we can also use object fit cover, sorry, to like just stretch it and make it good looking. You can also add one border radius 50%. If we add that, you can see now our image is like kind of having one circular thing. So you can use that particular thing while building your maybe your user page. That means the user image, the profile image generally have this kind of styling. That means it has the square thing and rounded thing. So you can do those things and you can play with those things. Now we have discussed a lot about HTML, CSS. I am going to remove all of this, and now we are going to see some kind of JavaScript. Learn more about HTML, CSS by just Googling. You can just Google for HTML. Let me show you. If you just search for HTML, and there is a very nice website called W3 Schools. You can learn HTML from here directly. HTML tutorial. You have some kind of documentation, and you can also like submit your answer. Then that means you need to perform these operations correctly, and you can submit your answer so that you can check whether you are doing things correctly or not. Great. So let us directly move to our JavaScript section. For that, again, we can add JavaScript to our web page using two ways. We can directly write JavaScript inside our HTML page. But again, we can't use Java. We can't write JavaScript inside our CSS file. This is something which you need to keep in mind. We can write JavaScript inside our HTML file directly, or you can create different file called, I'm naming it as app.js. So JavaScript files should have the extension called .js. Great. So let me first show you how you can write JavaScript directly inside your HTML file. So inside your body, you can add script. The script tag is also like you have to add the opening tag and closing tag. And one thing which JavaScript has like console log. That means the print. Okay, sorry, I have written console log. So yeah, the console log, and you can pass something like hello world. The console log is the same thing which we do in Python or C++, like the print statement. So if we want to print something inside our console or inside our Node.js console, we have to use console log in JS. So now how we can see the console log? It is not appearing in our web page. How you can see that? You have to open your console. For that, you can just right click it and you can hit inspect, the last option. Also, you can use the F12 key in your keyboard, and if you hit F12, we have successfully opened our console, and you can see the hello world is visible. Okay, let me zoom it a little bit so that you can see the hello world. You can see we have the hello world in our console. Okay, so now we have successfully written our first line of JavaScript. If you are completely beginner, you don't need to worry about that. You can, we are just covering some basic things. You can learn more by just searching here, like we have HTML, you can search for CSS. We have CSS tutorial from W3 Schools. So you can do those things. You don't need to worry about that. And apart from writing script directly inside your HTML file, you can also write the scripts, all of your JavaScript into different file. So you can just make the app.js, and if I remove the script from here, if I remove the script and press save, you can see that our hello world is now gone and it is not visible. And if I write console.log here, hello world, okay, we have written hello world, but it is not visible. Why? Because we have not linked our JavaScript file yet. That means, again, you need to tell your index.html file that from where you need to pick your JavaScript. The same thing which we have done for the CSS file, right? We need to mention the path of our CSS file. The same thing we need to do also for the JavaScript. For the JavaScript, what we can do, we can add JavaScript file, like the link. We can link the JavaScript file inside our head. But if we want to link a JavaScript file inside our head, we have to use some other things. But the best way to link your JavaScript file is the same thing inside your body tag. The last of your body tag. Remember, don't include JavaScript before adding any HTML element. That means the DOM element. Otherwise, JavaScript will kind of complain that, okay, I can't find H2 in your DOM, because before initializing any DOM element, we are telling JavaScript that we want to grab those elements. So yeah, if you are grabbing those elements from DOM, then JavaScript won't be able to find those elements. So we have to write JavaScript at the last of our body. That means after writing all of your HTML tags. That means div, h2, p tag. Now you can add JavaScript, and you can see that Emmet is suggesting us two things. One is script and one is scripts src. So what are the difference? If you want to write the JavaScript, complete JavaScript code inside your HTML file, you can use script. But if you want to link your JavaScript file, you have to use script src. If I hit script src, you can see that this is the same thing which we have shown in the last time. It is having the script tag, it is having the opening tag and closing tag of script, but here we also have to mention the src thing which I have mentioned. That means the source of our JavaScript file. So currently our JavaScript file is in the same directory of the index.html file, so in the root directory. So we have to do /, that means we are in the same directory. And you can see VS Code is suggesting the files for us, and we can select app.js. Great. Now if I say, you can see that hello world is back again in our console. That means our app.js file is successfully linked with our index.html file. Now we can perform different operations, like if I add console.log, if I add 1 + 2, and if I press save, you can see 3 here. That means we can perform different operations or different functions in our JavaScript. Fine. Our JavaScript is also working. So let us do some kind of API call. So what is like the API call? We are going to use one third-party API called Jokes API. It will return the Jokes API documentation. It will return us the jokes. That means let me open it so that you can get one nice idea. We can select category, and we are going to select the programming jokes, because we all are programmers, right? We like programming jokes. So we are going to grab the programming jokes, and we are going to grab the programming jokes from a third-party service, from a third-party database or server, and we are going to integrate that into our application. So you have to select custom. Okay, let me just drop the link in the chat so that you can also open this link and you can just try things out. This is the Jokes API documentation, and I am going to first select the custom category, and I am selecting programming because I want programming jokes. And you can also blacklist some topic like NSFW and religious political stuff if you don't want this kind of response. And I want the JSON response. So by default, we have one called JSON. So we are going to have JSON response. We don't want plain text XML response, and we can also select the joke type. For now, we are going to just select both the types, because we are going to do some checks in our JavaScript, so that you can learn how you can write some kind of checks if else statement. And yeah, that's it. I think amount of jokes will be fine. And if I send request, you can find our API is returning some data. So if I just copy this link, and if I open it directly in my another tab, and I am also just pasting it in the chat, and okay. I'm just going through the chats. If you have any doubts, like, okay, padding. So padding basically means that margin and padding you have to apply. Suppose you have one house, right? You have your house, but you also have your boundary. That means the boundary of your house. But you can see that you have some gap from the actual house and from your boundary. So the boundary is something called in CSS border. So we have our something called box model, CSS box model. You can just Google it and you can learn that CSS box model. And first we have our border, then we have some gap from the border and the actual content, which is known as the padding. And from the border, from the outer things, if we have any kind of thing, any kind of distance, it is called as margin. So we are going to see those things while applying this jokes API. And padding, yeah, like you can use padding. Can the div only be applied to the side of the web page? Like, for example, we want to place a green square in the middle of the web page. Okay, we are going to see how we can middle your elements. This is the most asked thing to the web developers, like how you can center a div. Great. So we can also modify the dimensions of the image. Yeah, Sakshi, you are right. We can modify the dimensions. And okay, fine. So I think we can do it. Yeah. So yeah, if you just open the link which I have shared in the chat, you can see some data right in your browser. It is having one format called JSON. It is returning us in the JSON format, and we're going to see how we can get the actual data from the JSON. And we can see that error false, and category is programming, type is single, and the joke is we messed up the gaming again, guys. I don't know what is the meaning of this joke, but yeah, fine. These are some flags which you can explore, and it is having ID. If I refresh it again, you can see that the API is returning another joke, but now it is like a different joke. It is not the same one. It is telling us that Java and C were telling jokes. It was C's turn, so he writes something on the wall, points to it and says, do you get the reference? But Java did not. Oh, okay, yeah, got it. So yeah, if you refresh it, you can get another joke. So this is our basic idea. That means we are going to request different jokes from this endpoint, from this API, and we are going to show those jokes in our web page. All right, you got the idea of HTML, CSS, and now let us see how we can do this thing. Let us copy this first URL, and I am going to declare one variable called API URL. And in JavaScript, you can just initialize your variables using some keywords called const, let, and var. You can search again in Google for the differences in const, let, var. But if you are using const, then you can't use, you can put another value to the variable which you have initialized. So you can't put API URL equal to something else. You can't do that. JavaScript will complain that you can't put values. So fine, we have mentioned our the endpoint, the API endpoint, the API URL inside one variable called API URL. So now we are going to add some function, and I am using ES6 functions. That means the arrow function. We can use the arrow function. So fetch jokes. The name of our function is fetch jokes. But if we don't use arrow function, you can add function using the function keyword, and you have to mention the name, and you have to add the first bracket, and you have to initialize the function in this way. You can pass some kind of the parameter. If I just put name, and if I do console log name here, and if I call this function now fetch jokes function will be called, and we have to pass name here, and I am passing Niloy. So what will happen? We are passing Niloy as our parameter, and here it is accepting the name. So now name will be Niloy. So console, our browser will console log the name. That means Niloy. We have passed Niloy. That means it is going to console Niloy. It's consoling the variable, which the string which we have passed while calling the function. Great. So you got the idea of JavaScript function, but today we are going to use something other. Like we are going to use arrow functions, fetch jokes. You can initialize arrow functions in this way. So this is kind of the same thing, but instead of using function, you can use const, and you can also use let or var, whatever you want, and you can just name the function, the fetch jokes, and you can add some parameters like name, place, and some other things. But okay, let me just do the okay, fine. So inside our function, what we have to do, we are going to fetch this thing, fetch the API. So to make some kind of API call, we have different type of API calls like get method, post method, put method, delete method, and some other different methods. So but in this case, we are going to use get method. That means we are telling our API that hey API, we want to get some data. Here we want to get some data. We don't want to post some data anywhere in our API, but here we need to like get those data. That's why we need to use the get method. And to make the API calls, we are going to use fetch. Now fetch is something we can use to make API calls, to make the HTTP requests inside our browser, and it is like inbuilt function. And for fetch, we have to first mention our endpoint. So we can directly pass the API URL, but this is not again like a good thing. We should pass this as a parameter like URL. While calling the function, we have to pass the parameter. That means while calling the function, we are calling the fetch jokes function, we have to pass the API URL. Right? You can directly do that here also, API URL, but this is not, we should not actually use the global variables directly inside our function. So we should pass those variables in this way. And inside our fetch, we have to pass the URL, and the URL is actually the URL which you are passing. You can also mention the methods here inside your inside the object, but by default it is get method, so you don't need to worry about that. Now, it is actually kind of a promise. So promise actually returns two things. It will return, it will resolve, and it after the promise is resolved, it will return us some kind of data or some kind of error. So if we just use then, you can see, and we are getting some kind of response, that we are getting response from our API. First, we need to JSONify our response. That means if we directly hit our API from our browser, it is the JSON response, right? But if we are using fetch, it will not actually return us some JSON response. First, we need to JSONify it. This.json, index.json, it will again return one promise. So it need to be resolved. That means we again need to use then. So whenever our JSON, our response will get converted to JSON, then we will get some data. And what we want to console log our data. For now, I am just writing console.log data. Right? If I now press save, and yeah, we can also use catch here. That means if somehow our request will actually fail and it will return some kind of error, we can also console log that error. That means if we are facing some error, we can console log that error. Okay, and we are calling the fetch jokes function here. So I hope now in my console the response is visible. You can see the same thing which we have seen in our browser here. We are now doing the same thing using our web app. That means our website. In our website, we are calling the API and we are getting the response here in our console. So it is having the category called programming, and yeah, so we are having that response. But how you can render that response, that jokes, into our website, into our web page? So this is like one challenge, right? So Tushar is asking, what is the difference between static and dynamic website from both user and developer end? Great. So look, Tushar, we can hard code the data. That means if we just hard code one h2 tag here, that means my name is Niloy, right? And if I save it, you can see that my name is Niloy is now available in our website, this element. But this element is actually hard coded. That means we have directly put this content inside our h2 tag directly. But if you are using some kind of API or some kind of your own backend and you are fetching those data and you are going to change that data dynamically, that means we are going to fetch those data and we are going to change those data. So this is called the dynamic website, and we are going to make actually one dynamic app. So don't worry. And first we need to like change our title to jokes app. Fine, I think jokes app will be fine. And my name is Niloy. Let us remove it. So what we need to render? We need to render the jokes. That means this setup is why are modern programming languages so materialistic? The delivery is because they are object oriented. Fine, this is one joke, but if I hit refresh again and it is again returning two-part joke, but if it somehow returns single, you will see that now our joke is only having one line. That means it is single line joke. So yeah, like you can get the joke. So what we can do, let us create one outer div and let us create one inner div. So to outer div, I am going to add some class called main, and to the inner div, I am going to add some class called what I can say wrapper. Fine. And I'm going back to style.css and I am going to add main. I'm going to add some styling to the main, and now if I just from the console, you can see there is nothing. Okay, let me first add some styling to the wrapper so that you can see. You can also chain the styling. That means our wrapper is actually inside the main div, right? So you can chain those things. That means if we hover that, you can see that we have one element called which has the class name called main, and this wrapper class is actually inside the main class. So we are chaining it in this way. Here, for now, we are just hard coding the data, but we are going to see how we can change the data. Give me a second. Yeah, it's fine. I have plugged in the laptop and hit if we hit save, you can see the inner div, the wrapper div is now visible in our DOM. And can we do document.write here? Yeah, using app.js, we can use document.write, and what it will do, it will just write that particular thing into our web page directly. So if you use document.write hello, now if I press save, you can see hello is here, right? So hello is little small, but you can see we can directly write the something into our page directly using app.js. Great. So someone mentioned that how you can center a div. So we have one our div, right? But currently it is having aligned top in the top left. How we can center our div to the middle of our screen? So that's why I have created one outer div called main. Can we write the meme generated by the API instead of console? Sure. We are going to do that. We are going to grab those values which API is returning, and we are going to write with those values. That means we are going to change our content with those values. So we are going to see how we can actually put some dynamic content to your website. So the outer div is having the class main. So now if I just come to main, and now you can center a div in so many ways. If I do directly here, like position, we can do position relative and transform translate, but the most used technique is using Flexbox. So Flexbox is another thing which you need to learn while learning CSS. We have two types of things like display. We can use display Flexbox or grid. So using grid or Flexbox, you can align your elements in your desired way in your website or your web page. So we are going to use the Flexbox because I am a fan of Flexbox. So we are going to just give the display flex, and now we have applied Flexbox, the display flex to our main div. That means the outer div. Now we can use different properties of Flexbox, like one thing called justify content center. If I press this, I can see our box is now centered vertically. Now, if I want to center my, center my content like in horizontally also. So what I need to do? Align items center. If I press save, you can see okay, our div is not like centered because if I just add background I am using to debug things. Right? So I'm going to see why it is not like centered horizontally also. It is centered vertically, but it is not centered horizontally. Now you can see the main div is having the 100% width because by default div is a like inline element and it will take the 100% of its parent. But the height of our outer div, that means the main div, is the small, like it is very small. It is the same of its child element. So somehow we need to expand this div to the full screen. So to do this, what we can do, we can give the height, or we can just use bin height 100 VH. VH means view height. So it will take now our the main div will actually take the whole 100% of the screen height. So if I just press it, you can see now our main div is having 100% of its width and 100% of the height of the screen. And as I have made it flex, justify content center, align item center, the child is now centered. The child here is the wrapper. You can see child means the elements which are inside the parent element. So these are child element, these are parent. Great. So the same thing also applies in React also, or any other front-end component, front-end library or framework, whatever you use. We have this parent-child relation. And yeah, now it is perfectly centered, and I can remove this background green. And what I can do, I can just add one H2, right? Let us add one H2, and the H2 will be joke, right? And I'm also going to add some more elements. Let us add some H3. This is a joke, right? And what we can do, we can also add one button. Again, now we have one button which is called again. So our plan is to build something that if we press the again button, it will fetch a new joke for us. So this is something which we are trying to build. So if we press the again button, it will fetch a new joke for us. If I now go to my style.css, inside our main wrapper, let me give one class for like joke heading class joke. And don't worry if you are thinking that I am missing something, or you are missing something, or you need to see the code again. I am going to push it to GitHub, and I will share the link to all of you so that you can just clone it, or you can see the code and you can try it by yourself. So yeah, inside our joke wrapper, if we use some other things like HCSS, then we can chain our CSS in this way. Like inside this element, we have another element which is having this class, and we can directly apply the styling. But in CSS, it is not actually supported for now. So we have to mention that you can directly do that, or you can actually chain that thing. That means main, inside our main wrapper, we have the joke heading. So that will actually pick the perfect element inside our main wrapper joke heading. If we have another element outside our main wrapper, and it is having the support is having the same thing, same class, like joke underscore heading, then it will add the same styling to this element also if we directly select the joke heading only. But here we are selecting the joke heading which is inside the main wrapper. So inside the main wrapper, we are selecting joke heading. And okay, first let us, like, our font style is not looking good, right? So we want to add some custom font. So you can go to Google Fonts. Go to Google Fonts. And Roboto is looking nice. I think Roboto is looking nice. And we can select, we need 300, and okay, let me just make it a little bit big. We need 400, we need 500, and we need 700, and we're going to import it inside our style. So you can see inside our style, we need to paste this link. Let's copy it. Let's go back to our VS Code, and inside our style.css starting, we can just put this link. We're going to import some URL, which is again the font. And if I go back, you can see nothing has changed because we need to apply these CSS rules also. We have to tell our CSS that what kind of font family you want to use. So, and you can directly put that inside your body. So I'm going to put that inside my body, font family, Roboto sans serif. So now if I go back, you can see our font has changed. Now our font is looking different to the previous font. That means the default one. Fine. So what we can do, we can just make it a little bit big. So I am going to add font size, and I am going to use rem, make it responsive to rem. To rem is looking fine for me, and let us also style this joke content. As we are not using any other joke content, so you can directly put the joke content here. It won't apply any styling. So let us make it bigger. Font size will be okay, 1.8 rem will be fine. Great. Now we can remove the fixed height width. You can see we have our thing. Now this is not looking good. That means our content, there is no gap between our content and the actual div. So we have to add some kind of padding here. To add padding, we can add padding. If we add 10 pixel, it will add 10 pixel padding from both top, bottom, left, right. But if we want to mention separately, we can mention 10 pixel in this way. 20 pixel. Let me show you the reference. 10 pixel and 5 pixel. So it will start from the top and it will just go to clockwise. That means 20 pixel will be added to the top, then 15 pixel, then 10 pixel, then 5 pixel to left. If I save it, you can see our top is having the maximum gap, that means the padding 20 pixel, and our right side is having 15 pixel, and our left and our bottom is having 10 pixel. The padding is basically the gap between this button and the div, and our left side is having 5 pixel. But for now, you can also do one thing. For the top, you can add 15 pixel, and okay, if you just add this way, if you put two values, this tells that from the top and bottom I am going to add 15 pixel, and from left and right I am going to add 20 pixel. If I hit save, you can see that, yeah, it's looking fine. But our background is not looking good, not really looking good. So let me remove it. Let us add some shadow here. That means the box shadow. So what you can do, you can just Google box shadow, and I am going to use something called 93 beautiful box CSS box shadow. So you can choose your desired box shadow from here. I'm going to use this one, and you can just click it, and we have copied the CSS for the shadow. I save it. You can see we have added one property called box shadow, and it is having some kind of shadow effect. Let me add some kind of border radius. The border radius, that means it will add some kind of radius to the corners. I'm going to add border radius 5 pixel to all the corners. You can see it is kind of rounded. If you want to see more rounded, if I add 50 pixel, you can see it is like heavily rounded. Okay, joke. This is a joke. Fine. But let us add some kind of gap between those things. So I can add margin top. That means I am going to add some margin from the top for this one, this joke content, right? Or what I can do, I can also add margin bottom here in the joke heading. Margin bottom, I'm going to add some margin bottom 2m. 2m is 1.5 m. Let's pick it 1 m. And we are also going to add font weight. Font weight, we are going to add the 500 font weight. So 400, yeah, like 400 is looking good for me. You can you can just customize styling according to your choice. And let us also add some kind of styling to our button, and let me add one class. You can directly just pick button here, and if I just add background red, you can see the background of our button is red. But if we have multiple buttons, then these stylings will be applied to all of the buttons, which we actually don't want. So you can name it as button 1. Make it something which is like, which refers to the element actually, which is like fetch button. You can name it as fetch button, but here I'm naming it as button 1. And what we can do, we can just make the outline none. Border none. If I save it, you can see that the outline and button, the border is gone, and we need to increase the font size of our button, the text of our button. So I'm making it 2M. I think it will be big. Yeah, it is big. 1.5 them. 1.2 them. Let us make it 1.2 them. 4. 4 seems fine. But now I want some gap from this content, like this is a joke. I want some kind of gap between these two content. So what I can do, I can add a margin top, and I'm going to add 2 rem. So now you can see that our button is now having some gap from the content. We can also add some padding, and for the top I want 5 pixel, and I can add some more padding for both left and right, and it is looking nice. And if I hover to the button, you can see that our cursor is not actually like seems to be clickable. To do that, I can use cursor pointer. Now you can see when I hover to this button, you can see our cursor is like having this one clickable thing. Great. But one thing I want some kind of shadow. So it is looking nice, I think. And yeah, let me just add one background white, and you can also use hex code. That means the white, the hex code is FFF. You can also use 3F or 6F, whatever you want, and you can see our button is now looking something like button. Let me add some more properties like border radius. Yeah. So yeah, again we have our nice looking button here. So if I save it, you can see we have our nice looking button, and we can also change the color of the text using the color property. Let us make it gray. Something more than gray, so you can choose the color picker here directly. You can use RGB also. You can use the hex code which I have mentioned. Yeah. It is lighter. We need some more dark shadows. Yeah, it is looking. It is. But oh, okay. I think gray was fine. So yeah, I mean the UI is ready. So we have to just replace this is a joke with the actual joke which we are fetching from this API, right? The joke is here. This joke, it is having the key called joke. So we want to grab that joke, and when we want to replace that joke, and whenever we click the button, we're going to fetch the joke again, and we're going to replace the joke with the new one. sorry. Yeah. Uh, yes. Let us grab this one. To grab the element directly from the, what I can say, from the DOM, we can use what I can name joke content equal to. We can pick the element from the DOM directly using document dot. If we are picking it from using ID, we can use get element by ID, or you can use get element by class name. So, or you can use the query selector. Query selector. So inside this, you can pass different queries. Like if I want to grab the H2 elements, you can do that. But for that, we're going to grab the joke content class. So I am adding dot joke content. You can also use get element by class name, and you don't need to actually put the dot here. So that should work fine. Now, instead of console log our data, what we are going to do, let us console log our data first, and let us see what we are getting. We are getting one object, and the actual joke is in the joke. So the actual joke has the key called joke. So what we need to do, we have to grab this joke content dot, we have to replace the text. That means dot autocomplete is not working. Get element by class name. Let us use query selector. It should work, but again, VS Code is not giving us. So jokes content dot inner you can use inner HTML directly. Otherwise, you can use inner text also. So let me use inner HTML for now, but it is not actually. It is vulnerable to security. Like it can happen the some vulnerable attacks if you are using inner HTML. So you can also use inner text. Inner text will be data. We have our data, right? We want the joke. We want the joke key from our data. So we have to mention data dot joke. Now if we save it, you can see. You can see whenever we just refreshed our page, you got one new joke. So now inside our app, we got one joke, and this joke is actually like dynamically fetched if I refresh it. Okay, why it is making undefined? Because if I just open my console, you can see that this joke is type of, I think, 2-part. Yes, for the 2-part, we don't have anything called joke. We have something called what we have setup and delivery. So what we need to do, we need to add one more thing, one more element here. And let me add the same class for now, because styling is not something which we are focusing. Let me remove this. This is a joke part, and let us make it joke content 1 and joke content 2, right? But in the styling, we have to joke content 1 and dot joke content 2. We have to apply the same styling to both joke content 1 and joke content 2. Now we are grabbing joke content 1, and we also grab fonts joke content 2. And dot query selector. it is having the joke content. Now it's having the joke content 1. So we can do joke content 2, right? We got the joke content 2. Whose joke content is not defined. Yeah, joke content 1, obviously it is not defined. So now what we need to do, we have to make one if-else statement. So first we need to check if our data dot type is having one property called type, right? Our object has one property called type. If our data dot type is equal to for JavaScript, if we're strongly comparing like the two things, then that means we are comparing the value as well as the type. So we have to use 3 equal to, but for Python or C++ we can use 2 equal to sign. So we can use triple equal to, and we can see that if our data dot type is equal to single, that means it is returning the joke which is type of single. So we need only one line, right? We don't need both the lines. So, but yeah, is single. Then what we can do? We can just replace. We can just we can set the joke content dot inner text. I am using inner text. You can also use inner HTML, but it is kind of security concern if you are using directly inner HTML, which I have mentioned. So it is always recommended to use inner text instead of inner HTML. And I can do for the single joke, we have the joke inside our joke key. So what I can do, data dot joke, and else inside our else block, let me remove it. Inside our else block, what we can do, if it is not of type single joke. So let me refresh the page it again and hope that it is not type of single. Okay, it is returning the single type. It is again returning single. We want the 2 code. Shit, it is again returning single. Single again. What happened? It is always returning single. Why it is returning just single? Here it is returning the 2 part. So,
actually, we are running out of time. Actually,
yeah, sure. I am just wrapping up quickly. So, what you can see, if the joke type is of 2 part, then we have something called setup and delivery. So we have to replace our joke content 1 dot inner text with data dot setup, and we also have to just change the joke content dot inner text with data dot delivery. Great. Now if we save it, you can see it is type of single joke, so it is having 1 line. If I refresh it, you can see it is having the 2 line. So what I can do, we can also add some more styling for the joke content to add some margin top, like little bit margin top, so it will look nice. Great. So it is having like little bit of gap now. And what we tried to do, we also tried to fetch new joke after clicking the again button. So let me quickly grab the again button from the DOM, const again button. We can add the document dot get element by class name or query selector, and here it is having the class called button1 document dot query selector, and our query is dot button1. And what we can do, whenever we We have to add event listener. That means we're going to listen to the events, and whenever we click the button, we also want to call this function. That means fetch jokes. Now, if I press again, you can see our joke is changing. Yeah. Why do programmers prefer using the dark mode? Because light attract bugs. Nice one. Yeah. If we press again, you can see our jokes are changing. And if you want, you can definitely remove the console log. So now, yeah, if you press again, our jokes are changing dynamically. So we have successfully made one dynamic web application which fetches random jokes, and you can just see the jokes again and again. So, okay, sorry. So I think that's it from the demo. Let me, I will push the whole code for you in GitHub so that you can get something. Yeah, jokes are really funny. You can definitely do that. So let me wrap up things quickly. I have completed the demo, right? And to use some, we have different kind of front-end libraries or framework. The most commonly used are React, Vue.js, Angular, Svelte, and Remix. You can definitely check them out. That means when you are building large-scale applications, you have to manage some state and other things. So that's why you can't use normal HTML and vanilla JS and CSS. You have to use some kind of framework which will help you to scale up your front end. So you can check out React, Vue.js, Angular. These are like the popular frameworks and libraries. Then in the back end, we have different type of frameworks. We have our JavaScript framework, which is called Node.js. You can check out Node.js to build your scalable backend. We have Django, which uses Python. So if you are familiar with Python and you don't want JavaScript to build your backend, you can definitely check out Django and Flask. These both are the Python-based backend framework. We have another backend frameworks like ROR, that means Ruby on Rails, PHP, and Go. And Go is like very popular nowadays. So you should definitely check out Go language if you are trying to build some scalable backend. And the last thing which I have mentioned, the DevOps part. If you are a full stack developer, if you are building applications, you should know some sort of DevOps things. So what is the meaning of DevOps? That means when you have built the complete application, you are coding it inside your local machine, right? You need to make some kind of thing which will automate the whole thing, or which will help you to deploy your applications quickly and very fast and very easily. So for that, you should know the things like Git and GitHub. You should know how the version control works. You can check out Docker, Kubernetes, and Jenkins. These are something Docker will help you to like build containers and publish it in the internet. And you should definitely check out GitHub Actions, because GitHub Actions is like very popular and very powerful for maintaining CI/CD and checking the tests. So this all kind of like DevOps things you can use using GitHub Actions. So we have another thing called Web3, which is completely new, which is the Web3 means the domain of blockchain, how we can build web-based applications for the blockchain, some kind of blockchain network like Ethereum, Polygon. You can definitely check out Web3 if you are very passionate about blockchain. So again, thanks for like attending the session. You can definitely check out my GitHub. You can follow me on GitHub. My GitHub username is Niloy Sikdar. I'm also just making a quick repository for the code, and I am pushing it to the Git. So you can also going to see how you can push your code to GitHub. So yeah, let me just grab it. And to create a new repository, you have to click new. Inside your repository, you have to click new. You have to give it a name, and I am naming it as jokes app, right? And I'm making it public. I'm not initializing a readme. You can definitely choose that. I'm not using that. I'm just simply create a repository. We have created our repository. Let me zoom it. Yeah. You can see that we have some commands, but the main command which I want is git remote add origin. I am going back to my VS Code and I will quickly just open up my terminal. And what I do, I will definitely, okay, first I need to initialize one Git repository. I have not initialized, so git init. Now I have to add it. I have to add the changes. I have to commit the changes. So we can definitely check out some Git tutorials in the YouTube also. I am going to add feed, added, Devops app, right? I'm going to commit it and I am going to push it. It push origin and branch name is main. So this is like a quick thing which you can say how you can host your, how you can upload your project to GitHub. Now I have like uploaded my project to GitHub. I'm just dropping the link in the chat so that you can definitely check out the code if you are facing any error, and you can just directly clone it, or you can download the code to get more understanding. So yeah, like you can follow me on GitHub. You can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn if you are facing any problem related to web development, mobile application development. You can also follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Niloy Sikdar_. And last but not the least, you can also mail me if you have any queries. So yeah, that's it from my side, and thanks to like Hack4Bengal and GeeksforGeeks SNU Chapter for giving me the opportunity to introduce web to all of you.
Thank you, Niloy.
Thanks.
Thank you for this amazing session. And yeah, if anyone has any question before we end the session.
Yeah, definitely. If you have any questions related to web, or like I am also familiar with Flutter and other things, so you can definitely ask me the questions. The communication channels I have already mentioned, the LinkedIn, Twitter, GitHub. You can definitely reach out to me. Also, another thing, we are organizing one event called JWC. That means you can check jwc.tech and you can register there as a mentee also. This is again completely beginner friendly. You can work on different projects and you can do some open source contribution if you want. So you can definitely check out jwc.tech and you can get more insights about our event. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can best resource to learn Solidity. Sorry, Ayush, I have no idea about like the blockchain, Solidity, and those things, but you can definitely check out. You can Google like resources to learn Solidity, so you can get a basic understanding.
We have one question that do apps and website require different servers? It is not.
Yeah, you can. Okay, let me share my screen for just 1 minute. Sorry to interrupt, but again.
Yeah, can.
Yeah, I think my screen is visible. I have already pushed that into my GitHub. So if you are using GitHub for your for uploading your project, you can directly go to the settings tab of your GitHub. And what you can do, you have one thing called pages, and you can just use these GitHub pages to quickly deploy your application globally. That means now if I click save, it will give us one particular link. You can see that particular link, and after a few seconds or few minutes, your app will be published here. So you can use different services like we have Netlify, you have Vercel. So you can use those services to host your application so that the users from the whole world will be able to access your app and will be able to use your app. And for the backend, yeah, you need to host your backend in different servers like AWS or Google Cloud, or you can use different free services like Heroku and this stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's telling us that your site is ready to be published. So after a few seconds, it will be ready to be published at this site. And if you click this link, you can also check out our application which we have built in this particular. Yeah, it is now published. So if I just now I have opened this link, that means the link which we got from the GitHub, and you can see our app is working perfectly fine. Can again fetch the jokes perfectly. So yeah, you can do this thing like uh, directly push your code to GitHub, and you can use GitHub Pages to deploy your application. And this is something cool trick for your hackathon also, like for the Hack4Bengal which you are attending. You can deploy your hacks using GitHub Pages.
Yeah. Thank you, Niloy. I guess
Great. So I
I guess
think
we
we
don't
don't
have
have
any.
any more questions. I can't see any more questions.
Yeah. So yeah, we can end the session. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's event. Kindly register
So
and
yeah, I think we can end the session because we don't have any more questions. And
yes,
thanks
yes.
again for joining.
Yeah,
Thanks a
thanks
lot.
a lot, everyone, for joining today's event and kindly registered for Hack4Bengal. And also, if you have any queries and to get notified for our upcoming events, please join our Discord server. The link is already provided in the chat box. If yeah, I'm just reposting it again. If you missed it, yeah. So thank you, everyone.